Okay, this is Twin Peaks Spoilercast. Hello.
Straight into it.
Yeah, this is going to be an hour.
An hour max, if anything, will be less than that.
Okay, so I'm Harry. This is Ethan.
Hi guys.
We've both seen Twin Peaks, though I've not finished The Return, which is not what this is about. This is about Season 1, Season 2, and the film Firewalk with Me.
Yeah.
So everything that 90s Twin Peaks, basically.
Pretty much.
So I thought the structure of it, these first 15 minutes, Ethan, we'll talk about Season 1, which is the first 8 episodes of the show, and we'll kind of be spoiler light / spoiler 3. We'll talk about Dale Cooper, why we both like the show, maybe about the tone, and then I thought we could get into that incredible run of the start of Season 2. Obviously, there's a cliffhanger at the end of Season 1, so we could mention that.
Yeah.
Talk about the lead up to like the big reveal in Season 2, that first kind of great run of episodes, I guess. We could talk about that. And then the third kind of 15-minute segment, we could briefly touch upon the bad period, where the show gets a lot worse. Talk about a few things like maybe we like and don't like in that period.
But especially talk about the finale.
Yeah, but most of that 15 minutes would be talking about how good the finale is. And then I thought we could just talk about Firewalk with Me at the end. I don't think we'll have much to say about Firewalk with Me. But
yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a really good way to structure it, because everything that you've done can be separated into quite even chunks, couldn't it? Yeah, you have the first season, half of season 2, the other half of season 2, and then a film. So it does work out to 15 minutes quite well, I think.
So even if you have not seen Twin Peaks, and this is called Spoilercast, so you're kind of tempting fate clicking on this in the first place, these first 15 minutes, we're not going to tell you who killed Laura Palmer. Okay, spoiler alert, Laura Palmer, the show starts, she's dead. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
I don't even know who this is, but she's dead.
Unless you decided to watch Firewalk with Me before the TV show, in that case, you watched the film and you knew going into the TV show that Laura Palmer was going to be dead, and you know who does it as well.
It's the correct way to watch it. So yeah, Ethan, when did you watch Twin Peaks, and what do you think of it generally?
I think Twin Peaks is fantastic. It's a really good show. I would say that for me, the highlight of the entire collection of the Twin Peaks universe is in The Return. I like The Return a lot. Mostly because it's a lot more modern, more than anything. Whereas the first two seasons and the film, maybe the film less so, but the first 2 seasons for sure are very kind of old-fashioned and dated. They definitely feel like something from an earlier phase of television. Whereas what we're watching at the moment, which is The Return, feels so much more like it's a part of the prestige, golden age of TV, and that's what I really like about it.
We'll definitely do a podcast on The Return.
Of course we will.
We're exactly halfway through it.
Exactly halfway, yeah. But so Twin Peaks I watched at the start of this year, actually. I was flipping through Now TV with my mum because it was the Christmas holidays and we were looking for something to watch, having come off of the back of Watchmen. And we were looking through basically everything that was on Sky Atlantic, which is pretty much exclusively HBO, apart from a couple of things, Twin Peaks being one of them because it is an HBO. And my mum had watched Twin Peaks. I think the entire way through, I don't think she saw the film, and I don't think she saw The Return, but she definitely watched the first 2 seasons back when they aired in the early 90s, late 80s. And I think she told me she was a really, really big fan, and we talked about maybe starting that again, because I've always wanted to watch Twin Peaks. I know it's one of the first examples of, even though I just said it's not very modern, it's still an example of, I guess, a modern TV show. So it was something that I was really excited and looking forward to watch, and the results prove exactly that. I mean, we stormed right through the first 2 seasons. We were watching about 2 or 3 episodes a day. We were definitely very hooked. Twin Peaks has that great, that great storytelling device of having every time a question gets solved, 2 more questions come out of that. So there's always more to the mystery to unfold. You never feel like you're getting bored. Even though the main premise, if there's anything, the main dramatic question is who killed Laura Palmer, there's still so many different plot lines kind of spiraling out of that one event. In fact, and maybe not all of them, most of them are interesting to the point where even when you find out more about Laura Palmer's death, how it actually occurred, and you have, I guess, the specific facts, you still carry on watching because it still feels like the mystery isn't completely solved. There's still more to see. It's still spiraling out of control sideways more.
Yeah, I think it's a great pilot. It's a great hook. The discovering Laura Palmer. A bunch of questions get asked in that pilot, and we'll get into the kind of resolution of the Laura Palmer kind of plot line. But it is those kind of really interesting characters that get introduced. Like, it's got a bit of a thing with the music of the show, where all of the music you hear in the pilot is pretty much all of the music you're going to hear in the whole show.
Yeah, it's a pretty small collection of songs.
And I think you've said, like, you know what kind of scene it is from the song, or kind of what kind of character it is. But I guess that's more of a problem when you like watch it in bulk or binge watch the show. But I like the music, you know. I like how each character has like a certain type of scene that you get with them. You become very familiar with the characters, and it does become quite comforting. I think a lot of that is in season 1. Like season 1, it starts off like someone's been murdered, really tragic, kind of melodramatic tone, and then by episode 3, Cooper's doing his Tibet thing where he's throwing stones, and you're just kind of chilling with these goofy cops and like people in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the music in the show is definitely good. I know it's a very typical thing to say about music in Lynch's work that's done by that one guy, the same person he had on Mulholland Drive for sure. It's very kind of dreamy and ethereal, and there's a lot of synths involved, so it really does have quite a unique flavour to it. And I do like that when you see Audrey in a scene, for instance, you know exactly what kind of music's going to be played, because it's almost like she kind of owns that theme. It's her own. It's almost like a Peter and the Wolf situation at times, with specific tracks belonging to specific characters. I think more what my problem with it was, it was that after a while, when you hear the same 3 or 4 songs in every scene, used for different ways, I wanted something new. I wanted something different that I never quite got. And my other problem with it was that I feel like the music is too, I guess, foreseeable. I kind of, it's like you watch a scene from Twin Peaks, and if it's very suspenseful and kind of chilling, you'll have this one thing that you know is going to play. So it kind of strips away all the surprise out of it from, I guess, the sound and music that's within a scene. That I guess I wanted more variation of as the show went on. And something like The Return doesn't really... It sometimes plays a couple of... no, actually, forget it. I'm not going to talk about The Return.
Yeah. I mean, The Return, as you said earlier, is more prestige TV, whereas Twin Peaks is like the most artistic soap opera ever made. Because like, it is a soap opera. It has that kind of like structure of a soap.
And it even feels very self-aware of the fact that it is a soap opera at times, because there's that TV show that they're always watching, that, you know, you can see a lot of links and different common themes between the TV show in the TV show and the TV show itself. So
I'd say it's a thing that a lot of Lynch, I know that this isn't just Lynch, but a lot of Lynch's thing is where it's almost too sincere to be a parody, but it also is a parody. It has it both ways, where it's kind of mocking, but it's also so sincere about its belief that it's not. Like, a perfect example of this is a season 2 moment, but it's when Albert suddenly goes into this like monologue about how he like is taking after Gandhi and is like advocating for peace because he's not going to hit someone, and the music comes in, and it's a really funny moment. It's also incredible. Like, the show is being incredibly sincere at that moment, and I think that's almost the tone of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, but sometimes it pushes it over the edge for me, where you'll have a scene where the acting itself is good enough to carry the weight of the emotion in the moment, but it kind of falls flat on its face because the music in that moment is so kind of, it's so cheesy. like there are so many scenes where there's really kind of close moments between characters where one is about to cry or one is about to reveal a sensitive piece of information. And it's like a very heartfelt moment, but it's like now, and it's I get what you're saying about it being sincere, but it's so cheesy in the moment that sometimes I can't help but laugh at a moment that I think is meant to be very very upsetting.
Yeah, it's that tone that I think it does strike the right balance though. Well, it maybe loses it, but that season 1, it's really funny. It's really funny show, just from like the strangeness and quirks of the characters. There's some very genuine like horror and like scary moments. I think it balances the kind of, it's like a light-hearted soap opera where you love all the characters. There's like really melodramatic stuff. It's got like horror that's like fused in there. Like the entire kind of thing is like a big horror thing. And then weird kind of Lynchian stuff. like episode 3 of the show has maybe the most iconic scene of the show, which is the Cooper's dream in that kind of red room with the man from another place, which is like it's just.
Is this question mark, question mark, question mark?
Nah, this is the little guy.
Oh, the little guy
Yeah.
with the arms.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is that's in episode 3, and just watching those first 3 episodes, because I think I watched them all in a day pretty much, and the first episode's like an hour and a half as well. I was like, wow, this show is great, you know. And I think the rest of season 1's pretty much the same.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it loses any consistency from my memory. I will admit, the kind of refresh that I've had with Twin Peaks is kind of coming into the room every now and then while you've been watching it. So I think you remember parts of it and segments of it a lot more clearly than I would, considering I watched the whole thing at the start of the year, which was almost 11, 12 months ago.
Yeah, I think it's one of those shows that, like, it's hard to kind of explain to someone why it's great. And when I was in the midst of season 2 and the bad run, I'm like, is this even good? Like, I genuinely wasn't sure if I actually liked Twin Peaks at that point. But like, just remembering like how much kind of fun season 1 is, it's got like a genuinely good mystery, and there is like a sinister element to it. Like there's like the whole like thing, like letters under the fingernail of the body is like completely horrific. When they kind of explain what happened to Laura Palmer, it's completely horrific. But obviously, as you go on to find out more in season 2, that stuff's kind of really horrific. But you know, season 1. I mean, it's 8 episodes. I think some people should just watch it. And even if they don't go on to watch the rest of the show, which would be a mistake, I think it's a pretty great time.
From my memory, the best episodes in season 1 is the first one and the 8th one. Because the first one presents the compelling mystery, and you get a real sense of what life is like in Twin Peaks in those 90 or so minutes. Whereas the finale, it leaves things on such a cliffhanger. You get so many new questions because characters are kind of... They're moving the plot forward. And you end up with Jacoby being knocked out, a couple of other moments, and also Cooper being shot by an unknown assailant.
We're into spoilers now, I guess.
I guess. Although this is still series 1.
Yeah.
Right?
But yeah, that's the cliffhanger. So yeah, because we've said it's David Lynch is the kind of creator of the show along with Mark Frost, and the pilot I think is Lynch, and I think maybe the second episode as well. But then lots of different kind of writers and directors come into the show in the midst of season 1. And I think those episodes are still really strong. They might not have the kind of Lynchian nightmarish quality. Episode 3's got to be Lynch with the dream. But yeah, I think it's still really great with having a lot of other different voices and like more kind of slow episodes where maybe not much happens, but you just get a few kind of great moments with Cooper, who we need to talk about quickly. Because he's like one of the most interesting characters.
He's probably the best character in the show secretly, yeah. I mean, he's not like the McNulty where he's right at the bottom of the drawer of best characters. Agent Cooper probably is the best character in the show. He's the protagonist. I think for me, watching Cooper from the get-go, what I really loved about him straight away was the fact that Twin Peaks has so much bullshit in the sense that there's so much secrecy. And there's so much...
Everyone's having an affair with someone.
Yeah. Like there's so much kind of backstabbing going on. And Cooper's basically this character who comes along and promises that he's going to find some way to unravel it all and make sense of it. And that's what I really like. He's basically your key to understanding Twin Peaks because you follow him. He's the one who, like you, doesn't really have an idea what's going on, and he's discovering the plot at the same time that we are discovering the plot, being the lead detective in the case.
Yeah, I guess when I first watched the show, I thought Cooper's going to come in, he's going to it's going to be like a conflict about like the local police and Cooper, and but he's so fun. Like, I think the first scene with him in the car is the scene you show someone to get them into the tone of Twin Peaks. Very quickly as well, the color. Like, the show, for a TV show at the time, looks incredible. Like, I love the color palette.
Yeah.
The kind of, the sense of place of, like, it's kind of the whole Lynchian thing of an America that's, like, permanently kind of caught in the 50s with, like, this kind of, like, suburban community. Yeah. And, like, there is, like, sinister stuff going on, but a lot less than something like Blue Velvet, you know. It's a lot more wholesome than something like that.
Yeah, and it's not just the colour palette, but it's the physical locations in the show. You got that quintessential American high school, the diner. It's like classic.
The hotel as well.
Fence, yeah.
Which is kind of where Cooper
stays.
Yeah.
No, it does feel very, very suburban a lot of the time. The colour palette's really kind of warm and bright. isn't it? It always has like a vintage look to it.
Yeah.
Like it's been very refined. It's great.
Yeah, when I think about, I just think about kind of Cooper's personality. I like the show. He's incredibly sincere. He follows like instinct and dreams rather than kind of like, I guess, logic. I guess one of the things I love about the show is I thought, like I said, there was going to be this big conflict, but instantly, first episode, Cooper and Truman are just best friends now, and the police are more than happy to just go on whatever mad like leads Cooper wants to chase, and they pretty much all end up being correct.
Yeah.
The FBI of the world of Twin Peaks is one that I don't even know what the FBI are. They're like supernatural. It's a bit like the X-Files. I guess kind of inspired that.
And we also know from watching Twin Peaks that the FBI only consists of about 3 or 4 characters as well. There's like no more at all.
Just quickly jump ahead to Fire Walk With Me. They get their briefings by meeting a woman in an airport who does a dance for them. And they have a good time. But yeah, Cooper, absolutely fantastic character. He's just so much fun to spend time with. And like we said, he got shot. And that's the lead into season 2 with an incredible run of episodes. So Cooper's kind of been shot and a lot of like things hang in the balance. And then he is visited by, I guess we get we had episode 3 where you had that moment where Cooper had that dream. But we probably get like more of the kind of supernatural element coming in now. So we have the giant comes to visit Cooper and gives him some clues. We have that old man who comes in and gives him the thumbs up.
God, I think I told you this when we were watching it together, but that scene on Mum was the most frustrating scene ever to watch. He's just lying there on the floor, bleeding to death, and this guy just comes in. And he operates at the pace of a snail, and he does absolutely nothing but like raise his hand and give him a thumbs up, and he's just utterly useless, that character. It's just really annoying to watch.
I quite like that. Just like I didn't even. It's so ahead of the time. I mean, maybe I'm just interpreting it the wrong way. But season 1, you've got the whole Cooper does the thumbs up and he loves coffee, and that guy's almost like anti fan service, where he just wants him to do the thumb up, and bring him some coffee instead of actually helping him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have like a bunch more supernatural stuff, and I'd say actually, season 2, episode 1 might be like one of the best episodes of the show.
And run me through what happens in it.
So I guess it's the run of what happens. So a bunch happens in the last few episodes of season 1. We won't go into all the details, but like a bunch of shit basically. And season 2, episode 1, pretty much is an hour and a half, and it just kind of breaks down what happened. So Leland's got his grey hair now because he killed who he thinks killed his daughter Laura Palmer.
Sure.
You have that. You have like the whole Jacoby thing kind of unraveling. Everything unravels. Albert comes back to kind of help because Cooper's been shot. It's a really good kind of series of episodes that starts season 2, and eventually it kind of you start to understand more and more as to the mystery of the show. And I guess you probably know more about this than me, but David Lynch like really didn't want to kind of reveal what happened.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I know this stuff is because I think I'm trying to like jump back in time a while now, because I think when I knew about Twin Peaks for a really long time just because I knew of IMDb. But I think the moment where I first found out a lot more about Twin Peaks was when the return was airing, and I met up with my guitar teacher at the time who was asking me about what I've been watching at the moment, and I said so and so and so. I asked him what he'd been watching. He said he'd been watching The Return. And I asked him, oh, God, so you're a big Twin Peaks fan? And he like ranted for about 15, 20 minutes about how Twin Peaks is just the greatest thing that's ever just happened, full stop in the history of the human race. And he probably tried to get me into it. But one of the things that he ended up mentioning was that David Lynch was not very happy with, I guess, the studio's decision, or the powers that be decision, to divulge the killer's identity. Because that is something that happened. I think for David Lynch, what he wanted was to happily carry on unfolding the story piece by piece, and the revelation of who the killer is to be one of the final points on that journey. But it happens quite soon.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know how long David Lynch wanted the show to run for. I don't know how many seasons he initially planned it to go on for. But I definitely think if they hadn't forced him to divulge the killer's identity, then it would have gone on for quite a few more seasons, because I think that was always his plan, especially. And I think he left the show quite soon after, that happened, because I think he was really, really angry with that decision.
I think what happened is it was like the show got commissioned for 8 episodes after the pilot. It was 7 more episodes, I guess, and it was pretty much instantly a phenomenon. And then suddenly they were like, "Can you do a second season straight away?" And they were straight into it. And the kind of obviously, as you said, he had to reveal the killer. So season 1 is 8 episodes, pretty great. Season 2 is 22 episodes, of which the first half and last few are brilliant, and then there was that kind of run in the middle where I don't want to be like, "Oh, the show's worse because David Lynch isn't in it," but the show doesn't really know what to do with itself after it's revealed. After its mystery is finished. It's like, what do we do now? And it takes a while to figure out, and there's a lot of subplots that are just awful, like absolutely awful, and you're like, why am I watching this show? And then I think it gets a bit better when they bring Wyndham Earle into it. We'll talk about later, where they kind of figure out what they're doing again. They're like, okay, this is a villain, and we've got this new kind of mystery, and obviously a brilliant finale. With Lynch did come back and direct that episode.
Yeah. So should we talk a bit about the plot stuff from the first half of the season?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what's the exact point when we find out who the killer is?
So I guess before we go into that, we should probably talk about, I guess, stop listening now if you're still listening for some reason. But Bob.
Bob.
Yeah. So the show's done a pretty good. Okay, very quick tangent. International pilot of Twin Peaks.
Oh god,
The Edge, tells you that there are 2 supernatural entities. Like there's Bob and there's Mike and Bob. Mike is in a one-armed man, and Bob, we'd actually know who Bob's in the international pilot, but you find that out. And then all of that footage from the international pilot was incorporated into Cooper's Dream episode 3. So you knew that there was a supernatural kind of presence. You were aware of it. And then it does get explained to you by Mike, the one-armed man. He basically breaks down like, look, Bob is this like demon that feeds on like hate, and it's it kind of lives inside. It can like possess someone. So you kind of find that out, and then it's like revealed who Bob is and who killed Laura Palmer almost in the same moment.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil Twin Peaks,
but we kind of have to talk about it, don't we?
I know. What if Johnny's listening? I mean, he won't.
You won't be. No one's listening to this.
That's the good thing. So yeah, so you've got this. So you're finding out about all this, and you have this. You're being visited by the giant a lot. Like Cooper is basically being. His ring has been taken by this mysterious figure called the giant, which just sounds so weird to say.
It works.
It's weird to put Twin Peaks into words. That he's like, you've got to solve all these mysteries basically before I give it back to you. And then the log lady, who's a woman who talks to a log, takes him to like this place, what was it called? It's that like place you go in every episode of The Return at the end.
Oh, you mean the bar?
Yeah.
Is it called like the Bang Bang Bar or something?
Bada Bing. Something like that.
Bada Bing.
But,
Something like that.
Yeah, she takes him there, and then whilst watching something on stage, the giant kind of tells Cooper it's happening again. You see Sarah Palmer, Laura's mother, see a horse and then faint. And then you see Leland, her dad, become Bob in front of the mirror, and then he murders Maddie, who is played by the same actress as Laura Palmer, but is the cousin. And all of her dialogue is like, I didn't really know Laura, but I felt a special connection to her. Or me and Laura were incredibly close. It's very contradictory.
Yeah. But it's a great moment when, I mean, it's a horrific scene.
Yeah, I haven't seen all of TV up that way, but it's one of the most horrific things I've ever seen. And it's not even that violent. It's just like, I guess it's the sound effect, the way it's shot.
It's the sound design, the way it's shot. Yeah.
I struggle to call Twin Peaks like, it's just a really kind of goofy fun show, because I'm like, that is one of the most horrific sequences. And like,
yeah, it's not. You're right. It's not like it's very
it's not
explicit. Yeah, explicit or gory, but it is horrifying. I think it's because. I think it's because of the facial expressions that Leland makes and his movement, and there's just such a sense of aggressiveness with it that feels so like almost demon-like at times, where you feel like this person can't be human. What's doing this right now?
And I think
and Maddie, she's played by an actress who can do that kind of that look of like. I know it's a weird thing to say, the look of I'm being killed right now look. But she does have that down to a T, where she can just have that kind of horror.
Is it Cheryl Lee? Is that her name?
Cheryl Lee's the actress's name. Yeah.
I think she was. They just needed someone to be like the body, and they just cast her like on a whim. But she's incredible. Like she's so good. They bring her into the show as another character.
It's like right. Agent Cooper is the main character, but trying to imagine Twin Peaks without Cheryl Lee playing Laura Palmer is like trying to imagine a completely different show, because that famous image of Laura Palmer, the prom queen, is like, I mean, it's so iconic that it has to be that person and only that person.
But like she's got like you see it a few times, especially in the finale, but her like scream is like terrifying. I think that's. Sometimes when they do the Bob stuff, it's a bit goofy. Like there'll just be Bob in the corner, like he looks like a wolf, and he was just a lighting guy who looked weird. They decided was like the representation of evil, but
he's played by a guy called Frank Silva.
Yeah, but the filmmaking when they turn Leland into Bob, I think is really good and like very sinister. So at that moment, the audience suddenly know kind of what happened, and then you have
what really sells that moment to me. From memory, in fact, and from rewatching parts of it with you when you showed me the scene again, was it's what it's cut in between, isn't it? It's like you said, it's Dale being taken to the bar, and it's happening again moment that I think really works just fantastically with the other half of what's going on at the moment, because Twin Peaks, and actually I feel like a lot of Lynchian's work has this. It's hard to put into words, but when we were talking about it outside of the podcast, I said what it really reminds me of is something that Matthew McConaughey says in True Detective when he's talking about driving through the kind of abandoned, derelict rural areas of Louisiana, and he says, "God, there's this aluminum in the air. You can practically smell the psychosphere," and the psychosphere is like it's a collective group of all the thoughts and emotions held by characters in a particular room in a particular scene. And I feel like Twin Peaks as a particular location has such a strong connection with the characters that inhabit it, in the way that something really monumental can happen, completely like in a completely different part of the town, but it's felt, by the characters in the scene. When Maddie dies. I don't know which character it is, but there's a character in that part that just starts spontaneously crying for no apparent reason. And I think Bobby's there as well, and he kind of looks around and he notices something. It's and it's a feeling. It's like that there's this shift. Twin Peaks has changed and it'll never be the same. And that's what you get when Maddie's dead. You get this collective sense of change that you wouldn't get in any conceivable place in the real world. I don't think, but Twin Peaks, there's like a magic about it, isn't there?
There's definitely this kind of supernatural element that is almost like that, like almost like what kind of Laura Palmer is, almost becomes more supernatural. I think there's tinges and like weird moments in Twin Peaks that kind of hint at the supernatural, and then as it goes on, you find out more about the kind of lodges, and it does become more of like a science fiction thing. And then Fire Walk with Me is insane, like it makes absolutely no sense. And then the first half of The Return so far has carried on where Fire Walk with Me left off. In the, I guess, the more I feel like the more it's David Lynch's thing, the weirder he kind of makes it. I definitely feel like there is this kind of like idea of like a magic in Twin Peaks that all of the characters are kind of connected to in some way.
Yeah, definitely.
Like there's a great moment that kind of comes back in Fire Walk with Me where Donna is doing Laura Palmer's Meals on Wheels run. And she goes and gives this woman some corn cream or whatever. And she just has a son in the corner who is David Lynch's son in real life, who's dressed like a magician.
Yeah.
And he just makes the corn cream appear in his hands. And we never see him again. And it's like, what the fuck was that? And that ends up coming back in Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
It's just all these like weird things that are tangentially connected to Laura Palmer. They're just kind of supernatural and strange.
And it's not just things like that. There is so much symbolism and kind of visual imagery in Twin Peaks where you can make connections between things, and you're like, God, that's crazy. How does this link to that? And you'll kind of drive yourself insane thinking about it. But the best thing to do is just kind of just let it happen.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I know this is from The Return, but it's a small thing. Like when they open up the body of so and so, and there's just a ring that says, Dougie from Janie or to Janie from Dougie, and you're like, how could those things possibly? I mean, it kind of makes sense they could possibly be related just because it's Twin Peaks, but it's kind of those, like you said, those tangential links that there is a sheer abundance of throughout Twin Peaks where things are just related to and call back from things that you've already seen, and it's almost like how every piece of this puzzle could fit together is beyond me. But I'm sure in David Lynch's head there is something that connects. There is something that connects those rings, and there is a reason why Agent Chet Desmond disappeared in the trailer park. You know that there is a reason for that, and there are reasons for everything. It's just he doesn't want to be very explicit about
I think,
that.
yeah, I feel like when it's Lynch from Frost, or when it's just Lynch in terms of Firewalk with Me. So when it's David Lynch in Firewalk with Me and The Return, I feel like there is it's a contained thing with an explanation. But I think what makes the original show more elusive is because it's such an amalgamation of different directors, writers, producers. It's so many people's thing that starts off as a Lynchian thing and then becomes someone doing a Lynch thing. Which, like, I fucking hate Donnie Darko. but this is a better version of it, where it's kind of like the mystery piece is someone left being picked up by someone else and taken in a way. I find that really interesting. I think the show actually, it is, if you watch the original show, apart from the last couple of episodes, because like they do not apply whatsoever, I think everything makes sense. I think the first 20 episodes of Twin Peaks, pretty much every question gets answered. I think. There's a few things with Briggs that don't really make sense. But I think, I feel like...
What are you talking about? The first 20 minutes of the show ever?
I think the first 28 of the 30 episodes of Twin Peaks,
Right.
Most of it, I don't think you have too many questions. I think most of it kind of is contained in a way.
It is because it's almost like the suit. There is still supernatural elements running throughout, but the individual lives of the characters, like all the questions that you have related to Shelley are going to get answered. All the questions that you have related to Norma are going to get answered because those aspects of Twin Peaks aren't very supernatural, are they? And when you really think about it, the craziest the show ever gets in the finale of series 2, where it kind of just takes a leap and it puts you into this area, this zone called the Black Lodge, that's extremely supernatural. But it kind of ties back to the fact that it's a soap opera, isn't it? So when you kind of see Lucy interacting with Andy, like that's there's something kind of it obviously it's a goofy and it is very Twin Peaks and very Lynch and all these other things, but it is grounded in that sense that it's like these are just two human beings having a life together. Just watch what happens to them. Whereas when it's The Return, for instance, they kind of ramp the supernatural shit up, and there's so much stuff happening. You know, you got stuff happening in Buckhorn, South Dakota, stuff happening in Las Vegas. You've still got Twin Peaks around, and it's just like it's not as self-contained because you don't really have the soap opera happening in all of these characters' lives because they're all part of something that's inherently supernatural, I guess.
Yeah, I think after we'll talk about the episodes kind of. I guess I quickly mention now. Might as well do it now. So Leland, you find out it's Leland, and then you have like 2 episodes where that kind of gets resolved, and it ends with Leland dying. I feel like, and then Lynch kind of leaves the show. And at that point, the only new until the finale, they're kind of building. They don't really know what they're doing. There's some things with Briggs that are supernatural, but I don't think they introduce any new elements. Like there isn't like suddenly a new mystery or a new question. I feel like it's then resolving, like you said, all of the character relationships. And there is some weak ass shit there.
That's true, but I still think the premise of Twin Peaks is who killed Laura Palmer. Like that definitely is it. But the ball doesn't stop with Laura Palmer. She's only a small part of it, even if she feels very significant to it. And that's why The Return, Firewalk with Me, and the second half of season 2 are allowed to exist, because the mystery doesn't just stop with Laura Palmer. I kind of like it when Leland disappears. I like all that stuff because it feels like the mystery isn't complete yet. There's still more that you can build upon. There's still more to discover.
So you have, I think you have an episode where you know it's Leland, but no one else does, and he's acting very sus. And then Leland dies, and then you kind of have an episode which like resolves that. You have his funeral, and David Lynch in the show goes, "I'm going away." So you kind of know that he's gone for a bit. And then before he comes back, I do think there's a sense of they needed. I think a better way of doing the show would have been to have another mystery immediately, because there is a few episodes where it's just Nadine goes to school. That's like half the episode. James leaves Twin Peaks and goes and does his like the worst subplot of all time.
Okay, so that is bad. That is bad. I will definitely.
And like there's a period before you get Wyndham Earl back. Wyndham Earl as like, and he's playing this game of chess with Cooper where he's taking lives, which is very soap opera. I think he's really. You have when Wyndham Earl comes in and Catherine comes back. I think they're both very good soap opera actors, and that they just ham it up and make it like really fun. But yeah, there's just a few episodes before that where I'm like, what is this show now? And even when they're there, you've got Briggs kind of going to space and being taken to a lodge. And I'm like, what the fuck? And eventually the lodge stuff does kind of click in.
Maybe it's because when Leland gets caught and kind of dies, I guess the plot of the show kind of it stops being so linear and it kind of pokes off in different directions. You're right, because the subplots kind of get ramped up a little bit at that point. Maybe it's just that I'm a fan of that stuff. I like the Leland disappearing idea because it still made me feel hooked, and I never thought the show was just going to kind of end there at that point because there was always more episodes of it.
I guess for me it was that Leland is gone and Bob's gone. The second the show is like, oh okay, it's supernatural shit, I'm like, I don't have as many questions. So it's like Bob is a supernatural entity. I'm like, okay, that explains it because it's just supernatural stuff. So I kind of know that now. And like when we get into like the mythology and like the understanding of things like the Black Lodge and like stuff in The Return and Firewalk with Me, then I'm interested once again. But the show doesn't. It starts kind of posing questions about the lodge, I guess, but also not really. It kind of like
doesn't one of the what are those brothers called? There's three of them. And they're all twats. What are they called?
God,
well,
the Renault brothers.
That's right, the Renault brothers. I mean, isn't there something? Doesn't one of the Renault brothers come back because he wants vengeance as well? Is that around the same kind of period?
So what happens is Leland dies, and then suddenly in one episode, or two episodes, Cooper's like being investigated for the whole Renault brothers thing.
Yeah.
And that's like that. And he's
not a big fan of that.
He's not an FBI
under investigation stuff.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't really work. I like that you get David Duchovny. I mean, that stuff's great.
Yeah.
But
is David Duchovny there to investigate Cooper?
Yeah. They're kind of helping Cooper out. But this is the perfect kind of encapsulation of it. So the episode at Leland's funeral, you are introduced to the 90-year-old mayor of Twin Peaks and his feud with his brother.
Oh, I love that so much.
Just like, and he's marrying this woman, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna have a lot of this stuff happening. At least like when it's like the Miss Twin Peaks contest, it's like Wyndham Earl's like creating it, and he's creating like these like riddle pieces.
There's more stakes
where it's
to
like
it,
Audrey, Shelley, and Donna, are like all gonna get like kidnapped or whatever. I feel like that. Yeah, there's suddenly like a threat again, which kind of makes it more. But yeah, it does drag until that finale, I'd say. We should probably talk about like a few of characters and subplots as well, because I realised we haven't even talked about Benjamin Horn yet.
That's true. Yeah. I thought we were gonna. Well, I didn't think we went in this with the intention in mind, but I think just because we tried to keep it under an hour, we were going to end up talking about fairly surface level stuff. We weren't going to like pick an individual thread and just kind of go whoosh.
Yeah, but we've got to talk about Benjamin and Audrey Horn, because they're like two of the best characters in any show.
Yeah, they are really great. I guess, okay, before we talk about them, can we talk about why the James subplot is the worst thing in any show ever?
I almost don't want to talk about it.
It's just not set in Twin Peaks. That's first off the worst thing about it. So it feels like it has absolutely no relevance to anything that's going on.
And up until this point, he's already the worst character in the show. Like, even Laura Palmer, his dead girlfriend, is like, James is so boring. And she's dead. And I'm like, yeah, he is.
He is really, really boring. It's because he can only pull one facial expression, and all of his lines are the same. And I think his thing as well is that he's such a bad actor that he actually infects other people's performances as well. Like, I think the actress who plays Donna is actually pretty good. Sometimes her performances they fall a bit flat because the music is so hammy at that point. But I think she's a pretty good actress. But I almost stopped believing that at some point because James is constantly around her. He just makes everything. He just makes the drama in scenes drop so much. And that subplot is. Oh, that subplot just. Oh god. It's like. I think the thing about the subplot that is so bad is that not only is it built on like a million fucking cliches, But it's the fact that it's so predictable from the get-go. Like, you can just tell how it's going to unfold. You know she's going to betray James. You know that she's basically going to tag him along to kind of frame him for something. You know that her brother's going to be involved somehow. It's just everything is so kind of like ABC about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I really don't like. And it's the fact that it's just not even set in fucking Twin Peaks. And look, I know that The Return has, like I said, stuff set in South Dakota and Las Vegas. But that stuff's great. It's like Twin Peaks because it's the same kind of area, but it's not set in Twin Peaks, and that just really frustrates me. I think I would have liked it a lot more if this had been something that happened in Twin Peaks, the physical town.
You can just skip this stuff. All it means is James goes away.
Yeah.
That's like all you need to do.
It's also that it's like it's a big part of the season, isn't it? As well, as in, it's not a big part of the season. I guess I mean more. It's a big part of James's season. That's why
it's basically really what his season is at that point.
There's also Harold at the start of series 2. We weren't a big fan of him. We found him kind of irritating, didn't we? It was just he's a bit too weird. I think, to enjoy his scenes.
Yeah, that stuff's not great. Like, I think some of the it's kind of the problem where they've set up so many clues that when it comes to paying them off, so they have to introduce new characters to do that, and sometimes they're not the best characters.
Yeah. But, you have whatchamacallit, you have Laura Palmer's diary, which is probably the best thing to come out of the Harold stuff, because that's really important. But that's about it with him, isn't it?
I mean, this is just a really random thing to bring up, but in terms of the subplots and stuff, Dick Tremaine, Andy, and Lucy. Every scene with the three of them is just a fantastic scene. They're so funny. I love also along a similar thing. Jack Nance in the show is I think he's not a good actor, but every time he's on screen, I just have a massive smile on my face. He's so funny. There was a fish in the percolator. Just that one.
It's because he tries very hard. Like you said, some of the scenes that you have with him and other characters, a lot of it is just him reacting to things happening. But the range of things that he can pull, range of expressions he has in his face at certain moments, they're so over the top, it's insane, but they're just really, really funny.
I think the stuff
it's the stuff with Andrew and Catherine.
Yeah,
his reactions are just they're priceless because they're so OTT.
I really disliked the kind of Josie Packard stuff. I think her plotline gets really bad.
That's fair.
And Andrew Packard coming back, and I wasn't a fan of all of that, but I really like Catherine as a villain. I think she's very hammy, and her kind of relationship with Jack Nance's character, I really like. Like when she's undercover as a racist caricature, and then she's flirting with him, but he doesn't know. And just all of that stuff is absolutely classic.
That's so funny though. I find it really funny.
Did I show you that scene where someone pulls out a gun and you get a close up on his face, reacting to the gun?
That's what I'm talking about. His reactions being so over the top. I still think that's funny. I like the fact that Twin Peaks is this show about a prom queen being killed and you have to find out who it is. But then all of a sudden, by the end of it, so many crazy things are happening. The fucking Yakuza are involved. You've got people from fucking Hong Kong coming down to Twin Peaks. It's what is this show? It's insane.
There's so much drug smuggling happening through this one place.
That's what I really like about it.
Benjamin Horne. At the start of the show, he's such a sinister character. We talked about Audrey kind of being sneaky, but Benjamin Horne's such a sinister kind of character, and his relationship with Jerry's really funny. You got the sandwiches scene.
That's the first scene in the show that I was like, yes, this is the greatest.
That scene where they just start dancing for no reason.
It's because Leland comes into the room, doesn't he, and just starts singing and clicking his fingers. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
I think Benjamin Horne, right? He has one of the greatest arcs in the show.
That's right.
Because, like you said at the start, he's very sinister. You don't know who killed Laura Palmer, but you know that he's definitely involved somehow because there's something about him that's so dark, right? But as the show goes on, you end up liking him a lot more, don't you?
I think what happens is the good part of the show, the kind of 2/3 chunk that's great. Benjamin Horne's a sinister villain. He's really fun to watch as a villain. But it's after you know basically that he didn't kill Laura Palmer and he's not a threat anymore that they basically make him a bit he thinks he's a Civil War general and then he becomes an environmentalist. All of these kind of crusades he goes on. And just really funny.
Even the show knows how sinister Benjamin Horne is because they actually lock him up at some point around the same time that Leland gets caught for bait and stuff.
There's a really funny scene where he's locked up and Catherine comes in as the Japanese man and gets him to like sign over
yeah.
the rights to the hotel.
I remember that. Yeah, that's really, really funny. And by the end of it, I love all of the Civil War stuff where he just gets like caught in his own kind of in his own kind of imagination. He basically thinks he's this war hero, isn't he, from the Civil War? I think that's a really great subplot because all of the characters kind of come along. They're really worried about him. Dr. Jacoby comes along, the worst psychiatrist.
Just encourages everything.
Just encourages every
like
mental delusion.
Nadine, just let her go to school.
Just let him become a high school student for a bit. that way, we're just waiting until it wears off. He's an awful, awful psychiatrist.
Yeah, Jacoby's really funny. When we're talking about season 1, great. Season 2 like starts great and then gets worse. You've got Audrey who like is kind of has this relationship with Cooper and she like wants to help and she's kind of going undercover and finding out what's going on at One-Eyed Jacks. But then One-Eyed Jacks I think is Marlon Brando directed their western. I think it's called One-Eyed Jacks.
Yeah.
I think that's where the name comes from. But yeah, and then second half of the show, they have to find stuff for her to do.
Yeah.
So suddenly,
I think
she's dealing with her dad becoming a Civil War general. That's her only like involvement in the plot.
Yeah, but she's also involved with Billy Zane, who kind of leaves the show on that like really romantic scene in the play. So there is so much stuff that happens. But another thing that I wanted to mention, right? I think the most sinister that Benjamin Horne ever gets is when that's what I'm talking about. It's so creepy because he's meant to be quote unquote trying the new girl out, but the new girl is his own daughter. So they just keep teasing it, and you think that he's going to see his own daughter, and the way that he's like, it's the way that he acts in the scene, like I'm coming in there, I'm going to come and get you, but he doesn't know that it's his own daughter that's underneath the sheets. It's very creepy, but it's so fucking funny.
It's very weird how they just like the stuff that Audrey sees like at the end of season 1, start of season 2. She should never just have a functional relationship with her dad. Like a few episodes later, they're just like pals hanging out. It's so weird how quickly that stuff gets resolved. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we talk about the finale of the show? Or should we just go into
there must be a couple of other really funny moments of subplots we can talk about briefly. I like the bank scene in the final episode. I guess that's part of the finale. Do you want to rope that into the finale? Because when we think of the finale, we think of the Black Lodge. That's what we're thinking about. Yeah. So I guess the bank scene is really funny, where it just looks like characters are gonna die. And one of them obviously doesn't because Audrey's still in the return, but that's just a really funny long drawn out scene where Audrey's just chained to a bar in a bank protesting something, and you think that she's dead, but she isn't, and it's a great moment when you find out that she's not, because she's one of the best characters.
I think so as I said, Wyndham Earle coming back into the show is great. You have like a sequence of episodes where weird trinkets and mysteries come back like around the Black Lodge, and they're kind of piecing together this map, Wyndham Earle's deadly chess game, and he's like trying to figure out the map to the Black Lodge. Yeah. And then you have Heather Graham comes into the show, and she has kind of, her and Cooper have like a love interest.
That's right. I also really like the stuff where Bobby basically just moves into to Shelley's place, and they basically just have to babysit Leo all the time.
We haven't talked about Bobby or Shelley. I mean, they're both great characters.
Yeah.
I think Bobby's like a really kind of again at the start he's a bit sinister.
Yeah, definitely. No, Bobby is part of that set of characters like Benjamin Horne at the start. I just fucking hated because he was just weird and obviously involved somehow.
But I never hated, even when they were villains. I still enjoyed them as villains in that way.
I think for me it's because you contrast those characters with the most objectively good-natured people in anything, which is Agent Cooper. I mean, he doesn't have a single bad bone in his entire body. He's always strong-willed. He's always on the right side of his moral compass. I mean, that's just who Dale Cooper is. So when you compare these people who are just very morally suspicious with Cooper, I just didn't like them at all. And they were just... I think when I think of early Twin Peaks Bobby, I think of him in that jail cell barking with his friend. I'm like, yeah, this is not a good character. I'm sorry.
I still kind of enjoyed in the way that I enjoyed Benjamin Horne being like a weird creep. I enjoyed Bobby.
I think it took a while for me with him and Benjamin to properly like them and appreciate them as characters. Because right at the start, yeah, they were just Yeah, I didn't think they were. I didn't think they were likable in any shape or form at all, really.
Really quickly, Albert's great.
Albert's one of the best characters, yeah.
And Albert comes with Gordon Cole as well. I mean,
Yeah.
David Lynch appears occasionally on the show as a deaf character, and just shouts at everyone. I mean, he's great. There's that weird moment where he like realizes Shelley is the only one that can hear him.
No. She's the only one he can hear.
He can hear Shelley at any volume.
I like the redemption arc they give Leo. It's not really a redemption arc because he was a massive arsehole at the start of the show.
Leo's one of the worst characters. Like, he's just evil. Like, he's so comically evil.
But I still like that they give him that moment towards the end where he can do some good and then we never see him again. I feel like it was a positive beat to end on for his character.
Garland Briggs, obviously a very funny character. A lot of weird shit. Like, there's just moments where he's just in space.
Yeah, I think one of the testaments to the show of how the performances can really evoke something special is that scene between him and his son where it's really, really heartfelt, and the music is very cheesy in that scene. But Bobby Briggs' reaction to his own father talking in such an emotion, not in an emotional way because Garland is still quite stone-faced, but the way the Garland talks to him is so it's such a vulnerable conversation. Bobby's reaction to it is so kind of saddened that the music could be as cheesy as it is, but it still has a really strong impact on you. And those are the best scenes in the show. Actually, I've just remembered the worst character in Twin Peaks, without a doubt. And I'm not talking about worst in terms of evil, because the most evil character isn't even Bob. It's that guy from The Return who runs over that fucking child. It's actually the worst character in terms of not just that they are bad, but they're a bad person, but the fact that they are just badly written. I just hated every scene with them in. Is Hank, Norma's husband, who from jail. I can't fucking stand that guy.
I don't mind Hank. I think
it's because he's so two-faced. Every scene he has with Norma is like, I know you're not going to let me in the house, but trust me, I'm trying to get back into your good books. That's half of his dialogue. That is half of his dialogue. And the other scenes is him beating up Leo, him being very suspicious and just being a bad guy, and I hated it.
My only problem with Hank is just how his final appearances, Nadine just punches him and you never see him again.
Oh, I'm so glad about that. Because doesn't it? That's right. That's how it ends, doesn't it? Because Ed wants to get together with Norma, but Hank's not going to let that happen. So he comes in and attacks Ed, doesn't he? And Nadine gets involved and chucks him. That's right. Yeah.
And then eventually, so for the season finale, Nadine gets restored. Nadine. But yeah, we're talking about the Black Lodge shit. So finally, we kind of get to spend the best moments in Twin Peaks with those little like dream moments where we see the little guy, you know. We see like the giant or these weird supernatural
things. And it's the surreal environment that those scenes occur in.
And this is pretty much an entire episode, at least half an hour of an episode, just set in this one set with the curtains and the kind of floor, you know, that iconic image. And it's pretty much just Cooper going into this place because Wyndham Earle has taken someone there. And he kind of meets people as he goes along. He meets like Laura Palmer and she stopped doing weird stuff with her hands. It's like, meanwhile... They all talk backwards. Yeah. You know, it's a lot of fun. He's meeting all of the weird people we've met so far. And then you start seeing people with like different coloured eyes, and you realise that there's like doppelgangers and like good and evil versions of everyone there. You can't really describe this episode. Like, you just kind of have to watch it because it creates such a sinister tone just from this one sentence in flashing lights. Like the moment where he sees the evil Laura Palmer and she like screeches and it zooms in on her. It's like one of the most. It just makes me shudder to think about.
Yeah, for me, it's more that it just has an innate sense of intrigue. When I'm in that room, when I'm in that location, if it's not something that I haven't seen before, if it's not something that I have seen before, I'll carry on watching for the rest of the episode because it's such a unique design, unique layout, and it's so minimalistic as well. It's got such a simplistic design to it. That it feels like it only has it's so bare that it only has the necessities of what it needs to stand on its own as this incredible part of an incredible show, which is the Black Lodge. Those scenes just have characters like Dale, like Laura, like the Arm, like Gerard, like Bob, doing just really bizarre and eccentric things that if you try to explain logically, you really couldn't. It's just about taking in what's happening on screen and just letting it. With a lot of things in Twin Peaks, just letting it kind of roll over you.
I think what makes those scenes so entertaining as well is the way that they're done, whether they have the actors deliver the dialogue backwards and then play it forwards. So like they'll like blink backwards and move in like really weird ways.
Yeah.
And it creates such like stilted kind of odd performances that are simultaneously very kind of funny and also kind of creepy. So I really
I thought it was more that they had the characters say their lines backwards and then reverse the footage.
Yeah, that's why they're like moving and like acting in weird ways. But they're really great. If they didn't subtitle them, it would be horrible. But you've got that great effect when like Windermel's soul gets taken by Bob, like a really good practical effect of like the fire and stuff. I think that stuff's really good, and it kind of it has a logic to it where he has to keep going deeper and deeper into this place to help save Annie, and then Windermere tries to do a trade with him, which doesn't go right. Annie manages to get out, but Cooper doesn't. Cooper is too kind of deep in, and he meets his doppelganger, who kind of manages to escape in his place, which leads to a incredible cliffhanger, which I can't believe is the way Twin Peaks ended. I'm like, what the fuck? Twin Peaks ends on this cliffhanger?
Yeah, 25 years before anything properly gets resolved.
You also have that great line where Laura Palmer says, "I'll see you in 25 years," which you're like, what, was that planned? You know, to do this again? It's pretty crazy. But yes, one of the weirdest things. I can't believe, like, I'm watching. I'm like, this aired in 1991 on American network TV. Someone could just be switching channels on their TV, like any TV, and this could be on in like what the fuck? Like it's absolutely bonkers. Great episode.
Probably the best of the show, to be honest.
Anything else you want to say about the finale or Twin Peaks as a show before we very, very quickly talk about Firewalk with Me?
No, I don't really think so, to be honest. I think we've talked about Twin Peaks well.
All right.
Considering the time.
We've got like 3 minutes before we do an hour. If you want to talk about Firewalk with Me quick. Or not really.
If we talk about it, can we try and talk about it for longer than an hour, or are we still going to try and wrap it under one? It would be funny to wrap it under an hour, and I can do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, let's talk about this. We've got 3 minutes to talk about Firewalk with Me.
Okay, so Firewalk with Me, Cheryl Lee gives an Oscar-winning performance. It's the last few days of her life before her basically a tragic demise, and you see the events leading up to it. You see all these characters involved in her life, and what blows me away with Twin Peaks is there's a scene earlier on in the show where they're at the funeral and Bobby comes along and basically says, "Oh, you know who killed Laura Palmer? It was Twin Peaks. You all did it." And I think without being so overtly explicit about it, Firewalk with Me really hammers that point home. Where there's so many characters that basically, because Laura Palmer is like the angel with Twin Peaks. You know, she's this image of
the film ends with her being dead now in a place that looks like the Black Lodge, seeing herself as an angel. It literally ends with her kind of almost ascending to like a higher plane of goodness.
Yeah, exactly. And you basically see scene after scene of these characters who I think genuinely do care, but they don't know how to help her in the way that she needs to be helped. I mean, it doesn't help that she's being terrorized by a supernatural entity, which you probably couldn't conceivably get rid of. But all these characters basically, they care and they want Laura Palmer to be helped, but they don't know how to help her. And I think in 2 hours and 10 minutes roughly, the film does an extremely good job showing how difficult it is to cope with some of the things that Laura Palmer's been through, as well as showing all these characters that being angry and struggling to watch a film with all these characters that try to care, but also don't do enough and don't do what they should be doing, which is helping out a friend, helping out a child.
We said 2 hours 10. It's really an hour 40 because of the first half an hour of this film, which is insane. It's just a different film. But I think you're right. I think there's definitely not only a sense of people are literally like neglecting her, and the fact that she's kind of being like abused by her father, which I guess is the whole kind of Bob thing is more of just like kind of like a metaphor, like the whole idea of the horse and like neglect and stuff. But there's a sense that she is taking on this kind of unknowable supernatural force, and she's almost taking it on herself to not burden it onto other people. like she's dealt with this her whole life, this kind of like unknowable evil, and you get a sense of this kind of evil. Like there's the symbol of the ring keeps coming up. The first half of the film is bonkers and makes no sense. David Bowie's in that. You see all of the weird characters hanging out. They talk about this ring. There's like she gets given a painting and then a dream goes inside the painting. It's bizarre. We have like 13 seconds left. Anyway, Firewalk with Me is a really good film. Yeah, like you said, this performance is so good it should have won an Oscar. That's Twin Peaks. Goodbye.